when I come across somebody who's had a difficult background, difficult childhood, just grew up poor, those types of things, I empathize with them. And so we can relate to those people and you want to help that person, but that doesn't always necessarily mean that they are just like you and that they'll work just like you did and that there's not some sort of trade-off there. I'm Michael Mogill, founder and CEO of Crisp, the nation's #1 law firm growth company. I've built my business through practice, not theory. Crisp started with just $500 to my name and has grown to over 8 figures in revenue over the last few years, earning a spot on the Inc. 500 list of the fastest growing private companies in America. Our approach has been to take everything we've learned about generating massive growth within our own organization and help the country's most ambitious and committed law firm owners do the same for theirs. In each episode of this podcast, I sit down with innovative market leaders from the legal industry and beyond to learn from those who thrive in the face of adversity, challenge the status quo, and define what it means to be a true game changer.
This is Jessica, head of coaching strategy at Crisp, and today we're flipping the script for another special edition episode to get Michael's take on how to decide when to build talent versus when to buy it, what it really takes to win top talent in a competitive market, and how to create a growth path that keeps your best people for the long haul.
It is short-sighted. Just because people are being poached from you to stop investing in people, you still got to grow your firm, you still got to grow your business, and you've been successful probably by building a great team because you invest in your people.
That's coming up on the Game Changing Attorney podcast. Welcome back for AMMA, first one in this lovely new setup.
The new studio. So several years in, 350 plus episodes, and now we have revamped this thing, new and improved. So those of you that watch this podcast, this will obviously look a bit different. And I got to give kudos to Mike standing over there, right? You can't see it, but Mike built this thing.
All of it.
So
yeah.
This is actually kind of wild. They had we were going through different concepts and different renderings, and we picked one, and then it looks just like the picture.
Literally, you can't tell the difference.
I mean, Mike, Bob the builder over here, was in here doing the millwork, the lighting, the LEDs. It's really cool. So we got a couple new segments that are going to be coming up on this season, and just other things we're going to do with the lighting to continue to level up the podcast, make it a bit more premium. You guys give some kudos to Mike.
Yes, not to be confused with you.
No, it's a different Mike.
Different
Way
Mike.
more handy Mike.
Yes.
Absolutely. So I was thinking actually before we started the podcast about the 3 types of people that exist probably in life as a whole. Maybe even if we want to get specific to the business world, sure. It's the 3 Ds, right? So the first type is the doubters. These are the people that are just skeptical of everything. They don't think anything is going to work. They are extremely pessimistic both in the short term and the long term, and it's just whatever it is, whatever idea that they are even considering, they feel like it's not going to be successful. Whatever ideas anybody else would consider, they would say it's destined to fail. Like, these are the Eeyores of the world. They're not very pleasant to be around, and a lot of it I feel just stems from their lack of belief in themselves. So they may not believe that success is possible for them, or that they see somebody else's outcomes, or they see another law firm and they think, well, I could never be that. Our firm could never be that. We could never achieve the outcomes that they've achieved, and they're just different, right? So there's the doubters. Then you get to the second type of person, the delayers. So these are the ones that are always putting things off. They're putting off decisions. They're putting off they're just going to wait and see. They're going to wait and see what happens. Right? They're just kind of on the sidelines, if you will. They're in the stands. They're watching it all happen. I remember in 2020 during COVID, there were the firms that were taking swift action in terms of moving their teams remote and being able to operate digitally. And then there were, I'd say, a large majority of firms that were just like, let's just wait and see. Let's see how much worse this gets. And then, they waited a month, and then they waited 2 months, and they never really took action throughout that entire year. And because of that, they were at a significant disadvantage versus the early movers, right? So this is the delayers of just believing that if they can put off decisions long enough, that either the decision will no longer be required, it will go away, the problem will solve itself. But generally, I find that they're not very successful long term. And then you have the third type. So we talked about the doubters, we talked about the delayers. The third type are the deciders. Like, these are the people that make decisions. Some right, some wrong, but there's always some sort of, progress, if you will. There's always a next action. And, if you had to think about all 3 and not knowing anything else about them. Let's say they all start at the same place. Their law firms start same revenue level, same practice area, same type of market. Which one would you rather be? The doubter, the delayer, or the decider? And I can tell you, I would not want to be the delayer, first and foremost, because I think that inevitably just puts you at a competitive disadvantage of just putting off decisions. And then the doubter is probably not a great way to live. And it's not to say that you can't be discerning. There's always things you're going to be skeptical of, and you're willing to to dig in, do a bit of research, gain more information. Absolutely. But of the three, I would say almost unanimously, you'd want to be the decider, of the person who just makes decisions. Sometimes the information isn't, you don't have everything you need to make a decision, but you got to make a decision with 80% of the information. Mm-hmm. Sometimes the decisions you're going to make aren't going to be the right decisions. And in hindsight, there's going to be people that, will say, well, you should have done this, or you should have done that. And you're like, wow, where were you when I was making that decision with the information that I had at the time and the context that I had at the time? Yeah. I mean, it's no different than if you were to ask, the Atlanta Falcons today. They're like, hey, you really shouldn't have drafted Kirk Cousins, right? Like, you really shouldn't have, brought him over to the Falcons on this $100 million plus deal, only for this guy to go and get, not only not perform well, but also get injured. And then you're locked in into this 9-figure contract that really hurts the available cap space. Well, yeah, it's easy to say today,
right? But
they didn't know that at the time. And at the time, we really didn't have a franchise quarterback. So it's still not a great decision. But regardless, you're making a decision. And there's other times where you make a decision like that and it pays off in a major way. You look at the Kansas City Chiefs and them deciding to draft Patrick Mahomes. At that time, people weren't saying he was an absolute home run. And then when they gave him, I think it was like a $500 million contract, they're betting big on this guy. And then today it looks like a great idea. So, you never know what the future is going to hold. You don't necessarily know where the outcome of a decision is going to go. But I think by making decisions, you put more control of your own destiny. And then you can make a wrong decision and several wrong decisions and learn a lot faster and eventually get to the right one versus not making any decision and delaying.
Right.
So anyway, I thought that was interesting.
Yeah.
It's something I've been thinking about. You guys are here at the AMMA where you guys submit the questions and we answer those questions here on this podcast. If you're tuning in for the first time, we have different types of episodes. We've got our traditional interview format episodes. We bring on an expert either from the legal industry or even outside of the legal industry. And those are like the one-on-ones. Then we've got the encore editions where we brought back some of our most popular episodes. And then the AMMAs where you guys can text us at 404-531-7691. It just compiles the questions. We usually have some sort of theme just because we receive now thousands of these things. And we compile them. And we typically answer, about three questions at a time. So if you've got a great question, shoot us a text. But with that, Jessica, let's do it, man. What's man, lady? What are the questions for today?
All right. With that, question number 1. Michael, I run a medium-sized personal injury firm and am facing a crossroads. I found a young lawyer who wants to join the firm, and he's hungry and talented. In some ways, he reminds me of me. But the compensation he wants is very high, way above market rate. I have another potential candidate, and he's not nearly as expensive, but I think he'll take a little bit more work to be truly effective. Which one do I hire?
This is actually a perfect segue from what we were just talking about, because in truth, you don't really know what outcome is going to be the better outcome, a year from today, because you haven't experienced it yet. You can have, certain probabilities and a certain hunch. I'd say in this case, if you have somebody who is more expensive, but gives you a ton of confidence, and then you've got somebody who's less expensive, but they're going to require a lot of work, it's really an equation of you considering, well, what is the value of your time in terms of, and the opportunity cost of how much time you're going to have to invest in the person who's less expensive, and if the amount of time that requires, and that pulls you away from other revenue generating activities within the firm, if that outweighs the difference in pay, then you're really not saving any money. So first and foremost. Alternatively, you look on the other side and say you have somebody who reminds you of you, way above market rate. That's not always a home run either. So simply paying more there's not always a correlation between the amount you pay and how successful somebody is and how great of a fit they are for the organization. So I'd look at it more so from the standpoint of, what are you paying a premium for? Right? Do they already come in with certain proven experience and having done the things you're going to need them to do? Like, have they already been a part of a firm that's been, more successful, or they come in with a level of trial expertise and they're going to be able to free up your capacity or take on certain types of cases or maximize case values or bring in a certain return that comes in batteries included, doesn't require you to do a whole lot of training and development. So that just shortens the training period. maybe there's something else that's unique about them. So it just, again, and if that is rare enough in the marketplace and it's valuable enough to you, then I would say consider option A.
Yeah.
But be sure you're able to compare apples to apples, right? Because just because someone reminds you of you, I'm this way a lot. Like I sometimes get almost emotional when I come across rescue dogs, meaning that when I come across somebody who's had a difficult background, like, difficult childhood, like just grew up poor, like those types of things, I empathize with them, right? And I really, really want them to win because I see a younger version of me, right? And I think all of us, to some extent, we're all committed to helping previous versions of ourselves, right? Like we can relate to those people and you want to help that person, but that doesn't always necessarily mean that they are just like you and that they'll work just like you did and that there's not some sort of trade-off there.
Right.
So if you're going to pay a premium, you should pay a premium for things and people that give you confidence. And confidence comes from proven results, proven experiences, knowing that they have proven capabilities. And I keep saying proven because you really want to make sure that they've already done this before. Not like you're hiring because I really like them and they remind me of me and they have a lot of potential. That's amazing, but you really want to pay for potential.
Right.
As opposed to hiring for the been there, done that, you know exactly what you're getting, and it is rare enough in the marketplace that it deserves a premium. If so, then yeah, that's probably the path to go. Alternatively, if you don't mind investing a lot of time and energy and resources into someone, or there's somebody else that can do those things, then perhaps the less expensive attorney may be an option as well. But it's considering the value of your time. That's really what it comes down to, and the opportunity cost of you dedicating that time and energy and investment in that person, as opposed to you doing something else and perhaps not having to do that with another person that you would hire.
Yeah, absolutely. We often say with the time horizon of, do you have time to build it or do you just need to buy it?
Yeah.
And that's a perfect example of that. All right, question number 2. Michael, I've been listening for years and I finally have something I really want your take on. I've been trying to hire an operator for the business and I finally feel like I found the right one. During the final interview, she mentioned she has another offer and asked detailed questions about her growth path and future opportunities here. She didn't directly negotiate salary, but wanted to understand how her role would evolve. Some of my partners see this as a red flag. They think she's just using us for leverage or will leave quickly. It left me a bit hesitant, where before I was ready to hire her on the spot. What is your take?
My take is that several years ago, I would have sided with your partners. And this is how I felt. If I was in an interview, somebody was interviewing with us and they mentioned they had another offer, I would see it as almost like a negotiation tactic. But today I look at it completely differently. And the truth is, you don't know if it is a negotiation tactic or if they're just aiming to inform you. So I give them the benefit of the doubt in this case and say, okay, let's just say this person is aiming to inform me that because they're a very talented person, a very capable person, probably not the only place that they're interviewing with. And because of that, and their desire to actually make a decision, like let's say they do have another offer, they don't want to, potentially not make a decision on that one and then lose that offer, right? Because it's their livelihood. So I look at it more so from the standpoint of them being informative, of saying, yes, I have another offer. Well, thank you. I mean, you're providing information. But then my next question really comes down to, okay, so I always ask them, so what do you want to do? Like, meaning that, let's assume the offers were the exact same. Where do you want to work, right? Because to me, that's more important. And you could always tell almost like their body language and their immediate response. And if they say, hey, I prefer to work with you, like here, I want to work at Crisp. And I'm like, great. So let's see if we can find a way to make that happen. Or if they say, well, the other one's really great or whatever, and like they're kind of wavering, I say, take the other one. Take the other one. Like just because you sound more excited about that one. I think whenever somebody's coming into a new opportunity, they should jump in with both feet. They should be genuinely engaged and excited, and you've got to work with the willing. So if they come in and there's this like, well, I really like the other one, but I'll work here if you pay me more money.
Right.
We'd say go to where go where the heart wants. So I think that's a more important question of, let's assume the offers were the same. We don't know anything about the other offer. Where do you want to work? And they'll say, let's say they say it's your firm. Okay, now we can talk about what the differences are in the offers, or like what's most important to them. Because sometimes it's not always financial, right? Sometimes it's a question of like flexibility. Sometimes it's a function of like autonomy. Sometimes it's titles and, benefits, et cetera. It could be so many other factors that you can then drill down into, but I think that's only valid and makes sense to do after you know that where they want to work is your firm. Like, and that's what engages them and excites them. And you can even follow up with questions of like, well, why us? Right? Yeah. Or what would make this a bad idea? What would make that a bad idea? The other offer, like helping them through that decision. So someone should always come out of an interview, I think, with clarity. And both sides should have clarity, right? So like not only the candidate, but also you and the firm of just determining, is this person, like, are they going to be all in here? Or are they a mercenary and they're just going to whoever is the highest bidder, right? And it's a question of whether you want to hire mercenaries.
That's true. All right. And to round us out with question number 3 today, Michael, your podcast has been so valuable to my practice. I'm facing a situation I never expected. We're now seen as the training ground firm in our market. We invest heavily in our associates' development, provide great mentorship, and give substantive experience early. The problem is other people are noticing, and my team is constantly getting messages from other firms trying to poach them. I'm torn between pride that we're developing such a valuable talent and fear that we're going to lose people. My partner wants to scale back our training programs and development, but that feels short-sighted. Is there a way to be known for exceptional talent development while still retaining your best people?
There's always like the quote, the CFO is talking to the CEO, and CFO says, well, what if we invest all this money in our people in training them and they leave? And then the CEO replies, well, what if we don't invest any money in our people in training them and developing them and they stay? So it really comes down to, do you want to have a bunch of, I wouldn't say dummies, but just people that you're not training and investing in just because you're worried about them going somewhere else? I mean, that's a part of life. And if anything, you should be happy for people if they get a great opportunity somewhere and, it's something that they've made a lot of contributions to your firm and, they have an opportunity to, be successful somewhere else. Who knows? But I don't know if that's a reason to stop investing in training and development. So if you've gained that reputation, I empathize because I've been there and I am there. I mean, we invest heavily in our team and our training and development. And then sometimes, they go off to other opportunities. They get poached by another company and, it happens.
Yeah.
That being said, it hasn't stopped us from investing in people. In fact, we invest even more. We invest more today than we ever have in the past. And we're going to continue to invest in people because that's what enabled us to be successful. But it doesn't go for all people. I think the other thing that's important is having career paths for your team in terms of where are they going, like what does future growth look like, what opportunities are out there, and then also what's the vision for your company in the firm of where is the firm going as a whole? Is that something that excites them and engages them? People leave for a variety of reasons, and sometimes it is because of pay, and sometimes it is because of we had somebody years ago. They were a content writer for us, and they left because they wanted to do food blogging. Right, it was like an opportunity to go around like different restaurants in Atlanta and write up these blogs, and they were so excited about doing it because they were passionate about food.
Yeah,
and that's an amazing opportunity for them.
Right,
right.
It wasn't They're not going to get that here.
It wasn't because they were unhappy. It's just this is something they wanted to do their whole life, right? And they finally got an opportunity to do it, and we were happy for them. So that's absolutely fine.
Yeah,
but I do think that there's going to be people. There's people here. You can offer them whatever you want to offer them. They're here. They ain't going anywhere. And you could ask them why, right? But ultimately, they were a part of, the building and the growth of the organization. We've been to war and back, and we have, kind of a long-term vision for the company where it's going, and it's aligned with their goals as well. The short of it is that it is short-sighted to just because people are being poached from you to stop investing in people. You still got to grow your firm. You still got to grow your business, and you've been successful probably by building a great team because you invest in your people. The way to approach it is not to look at how do we, stop investing in people so they don't get poached, but more so from the standpoint of like, how do we ensure there's a long-term path for people within our organization so that when they are reached out to by other organizations and so on, that they're not jumping ship.
Right.
And we have people here that probably reached out they reach out to 5 times a day.
Yeah.
They show us the messages.
Yeah.
People are getting hit up by recruiters left and right all day long. That's what's going to happen. You have great people. I get hit up by recruiters. I get these emails. It's awesome. I sometimes want to be like, okay, I want to go like take the interview or respond. What was the one? It was a few years back. It was hilarious. It was either like the executive assistant for waste management, or sometimes it's like COO or CMO somewhere, or a CEO, and I'll like forward it to the leadership team and say, all right, guys, see you later. I got this opportunity for this up and coming, software startup, right, to be like the director of operations or whatever, right? So little do they know that'd be like the worst mistake of their life.
Yeah.
Right. So we just come in there and just blow the whole thing up and be like, get rid of all these ping pong tables, get rid of like the beer kegs. Okay. All the money that we got, we raised, giving it all back. Right. Because we're not going to operate that way, like spending other people's money.
Right.
So, but that wouldn't even fly with them. Right. They're like, man, we were balling out. We were all riding around in Lamborghini trucks. And then this guy came along, starting to tighten up. Right. Became like Doge up in the, up in our little SaaS startup. but it would be profitable and it
Yeah.
would grow. Any other thoughts?
That's all we've got today.
Okay.
All right. Thank
Until
you.
next time.
You've been listening to the Game Changing Attorney podcast with Michael Mogill. If you found this episode valuable, here are 3 free ways that we can help you grow your law firm. Number 1, download the first chapter of Michael's book absolutely free at gamechangingattorney.com. Number 2, you can shoot Michael a text at 404-531-7691 and ask him any question you'd like. You might just hear the answer on the next episode. And finally, number 3, if you can leave this podcast a 5-star review, it will help us gain access to more influential thought leaders and bring their lessons learned here to you. For more information on this episode, see the show notes in your podcast app or visit legalpodcast.com.